Today, I'll be telling you my thoughts on the final rendition of the beta kits. It seems that Hoyo attempted a rug pull after the Triple Harmony rerun, but still failed miserably in the end. This video was written when V5 dropped, but my headphones broke, so it's delayed until V6. I'll bet that nothing changes after V6 and upload this right as it goes public with some very minor adjustments. Let's start with CERYDRA. Her biggest issue, which was her kits having a departed state, is gone and didn't get brought back, which means Phainon can finally go back to getting cucked by Anaxa just like the old days. The concept is simple. Between two characters that use CERYDRA as BIS, since Anaxa is stronger, it would be more efficient to use her with him as opposed to a weakling like Phainon, who can only function in one game mode while shield no less. It's crazy I still keep getting a lot of comments lauding his MOC achievements without realizing he's unusable in PF before E2 and unusable in AS no matter what. Phainon mains are more shameless and persistent than Firefly mains at this point. Phainon MOC performance isn't even the best. He's consistently losing to Archer. If you're not the best at the one thing you're decent at, then what's the point? Specialists should be the best overall at the one thing they specialize in. At least Archer can be used in AS. Anaxa is straight up good in all three modes, which is why CERYDRA is better off paired with him. CERYDRA's additional damage also stayed, which makes her kits make sense after so many renditions. She can do Robin tier damage, but with a limit of 20 times per ult, which stops extremely high frequency DPSs from maximizing her potential, but isn't that big of a deal for everyone else. This buff at least makes her competitive with the other harmonies. I said Hoyo's rug pull failed because she's still closer to Sparkle than Tribi, for example. Robin's main strength is her team-wide advance anyways, not her additional damage, so CERYDRA should still be worse for most people. Honestly, it makes me think they're in fact setting up for a real rug pull later on. There's been leaks about Serene, who will be a really broken support, so what Hoyo is doing is making people think CERYDRA is somewhat usable and that they should pull for her. But for the majority of players, I don't think CERYDRA is worth it since there's better value from other supports even right now. At least she isn't as bad as Teotihuacan anymore, which should have never been the case since she's a limited harmony in 3.x. The memes will still live on though, since she's still not as good as the other limited harmony released in 3.x. Her potential was screwed because of Phainon's existence. Hoyo loosened up a bit, but it wasn't enough in the end. Now for HYSILENS, this character has somehow survived all the beta cycles with her buffs. The thing with Oshimori Mei is, her E1, which got massively buffed, still stays the same. Her E6 increase reduced, but overall it's still a buff. They basically moved the most important part of her E6 straight to E1, which basically saved me over $1,000 since I don't need E6 to score 8,000 score anymore. Side 1 can be 3 cost, while Side 2 can be 7 cost, leading to a total cost of 10 to get max score in Apocalyptic Shadow for the first time ever on a waifus only account. This is truly a momentous occasion that everyone must celebrate for. Something like this will never happen again in the history of HSR. Phainon truly could never. Even his E2 is a blunder compared to pulling HYSILENS E1. HYSILENS is truly the T0 DPS for helping me achieve the impossible. She will never do this again, but just for this one time, she's an invincible goddess. I even predicted that her E6 would be moved forward to an earlier Eidolon. I was just unsure of which Eidolon specifically, but it seems that this guess of its being E1 actually happened. This can be added to my long list of correct predictions in HSR, which makes me not just the best player anymore, but also the only clairvoyant or esper in HSR. Truly a promotion of all time. Besides her outlier AS performance, the buff to her E1 means she doesn't really need Kafka anymore since she can satisfy her talents of 8 DOT procs all by herself. Obviously, Kafka will still be her best in slots and definitely must be pulled, but for people who ran out of pulls before getting her, it's not gonna be completely unusable anymore. Just with her in Black Swan, any mob that spawns into PF will instantly be hit by the blast effect of Black Swan's Arcana, which is truly broken as shit. She might actually be a contender for a strong DPS for the second half of Pure Fiction, since she doesn't have conflicting supports with the Herda, for example, who is widely known as the goddess of PF. This might be the first time in the history of HSR where a DPS has more value than a support of the same patch. This has never ever happened before. I usually tell people to skip DPSs if they have two Apex once and pull a lot of supports, but this time it might just be the opposite for once. 3.x is truly the era where logic fails to function. MLC is also starting to become a shield mode while AS is becoming more consistent. The world is becoming upside down. What a time to be alive! Well, that's all for today. There's not much beta changes after all, and I'll see you in the next one.